guys, welcome back to Laurence McKenna channel, where today we're going to be talking about Sky's analysis of Trent Alexander-Arnold. Why all four of these guys fascinate me with their evaluation of what is going on with Trent at the moment, but also why there is probably more to it than they're able to say on Sky, but also than, they can say on TV at the moment. So let's just chat through this. Let's watch it through together, and we'll stop at various points. And I really want to know what your comments are below as well. So if you've got any new takes on the Trent situation, let me know below. Let's watch Gary.
You're a local lad as well. That won't be easy, the distractions of having all that noise. Real Madrid are a hell of an animal. I thought it was insulting, to be fair, from Real Madrid. I mean,
I agree about that, by the way. I think Madrid, a lot of Madrid fans were in my comments saying, oh, we were being very respectful. I actually think it was the opposite of that, but I just think that's how Madrid operate in Spain. So, I'm not going to take it personally, put it that way.
Like that sometimes they think they can get what they want, but Liverpool are a football club of immense stature. They're never going to sell Trent Alexander-Arnold for 20 million quid to you in January, so you're taking the mark a little bit, you know what I mean?
I think he thought he said the word, the PISS word there, and I don't know why he stopped himself, because Michael, is that Cockney rhyming slang? What is it?
Get out of us. So I think that will have probably unnerved him this week. You can imagine his agents, his family all say, oh, what's happening, Trent? You can imagine that noise going on in his head before this game, which I've
got to admit, I do think that's a really good point. I think a lot of us were evaluating it from club, player perspective. Very often, the personal stuff around him is going to be even more important. His brother is technically his agent here. There are going to be lots of people around Liverpool asking him questions. I think Gary makes a really good point. It's really only something that I think a player very often would observe. Even based on the issues that we saw yesterday on the field, I think a lot of people are going to be very harsh on him because they feel you're a local lad. But also, the other side of it, a lot of people will basically say, yeah, you're going to have bad games. The problem for him is at the moment, you can't really afford to have a bad game right now. You're meant to be vice Liverpool captain. You're meant to be in a lot of positions where you weren't yesterday. And you're also meant to be going to the best team in the world, allegedly, in Real Madrid. So you're meant to be playing like the best player in the world, and you're meant to be having this send-off of sorts, if that is the narrative here. I think it's disappointing.
I think would have been helpful. I know that football.
They said that they would have known what was happening.
Okay, so you said that up there on the. Sorry, just
the dynamic between Gary and Jamie is fascinating. By the way, I really enjoy these two as pundits. I think they're great.
No, we're just on a podcast where he said he thinks that Trent's people will have invited the bid from Real Madrid. I think that's quite a big suggestion to make.
I think it is a big suggestion to make, but I think ultimately that they wouldn't have done anything if they didn't. There wouldn't have been an inquiry if they hadn't have thought there was a route to go further with it. And they're not just cold inquiring. We know where we're at here. I don't think this is just some sort of random tornado of speculation that Trent has kind of brought together here. I think Real Madrid are very calculated in what they're doing.
What I'm saying is, we're not naive enough. These two lads have been involved in transfers. We haven't, but I'm not naive enough to think that Real Madrid would put a bid in January for a player who they can get for nothing in sort of 4 months.
Why would Trent's people say put a bid in when they know it's going to turn down?
Do you seriously believe that they don't know nothing? So this bid.
Do you find it weird that they argue to this extent on TV? I guess there is frustration. I guess there's personal dynamics between them. And I guess Jamie wants to really stress the point here. And I think the point he goes on to make is a good one. But I very often think that Daniel Sturridge and Gary Neville almost misinterpret. And these guys almost deliberately misinterpret things. I've been on panels where obviously you deliberately misinterpret things or you take things to fit your own point. Before, it can get very frustrating. Very often it can lead to an constructive or deconstructive, it's unconstructive conversation or a conversation which wasn't as constructive as it could have been. And I felt like this with this, which is why I kind of want to watch this and evaluate this.
And they're sat at home, see it on Sky Sports News.
They know about it, but why would Trent Alexander-Arnold's people think it's a good idea for him, knowing Liverpool are going to say no?
Because he's getting a lot of criticism for the fact that he might leave for free. Now, if Trent Madrid put a bid in January and then Liverpool don't accept it, maybe they can say at the end of the season, well, you were offered 30, 40 million.
Yeah, I think Jamie makes a really good point here. There is a control of the narrative here. I think there's also PRFC is kicking in here. One thing I would say is Liverpool are fantastic on the media side. I think very often, because of our silence, because of the way we operate, because we don't necessarily care about what other people think, because we do want this unpredictability, it very often kind of hangs people out there to dry. Michael Edwards obviously cares what the rest of the football world think, but I think a huge thing with Edwards and with Richard Hughes as well, those guys will know the more unpredictable we feel, the harder it is to negotiate with us. And the less that people know about operations, the better, frankly. So I think that's an interesting one there. I also think Jamie's right here. Real Madrid, they don't care about the image, but they do also want to set some wheels in motion that later on will make things awkward for Trent, make things awkward for Liverpool, and ultimately make them unpredictable to make them harder to negotiate with.
For me, it was almost to buy a little bit of time at the end of the season when if he goes for free, that they can say, well, Liverpool were offered 20-30 million.
It's a lose. Daniel, do you think it's realistic?
Daniel Sturridge comes in at this point. I like Daniel. There are times where he says things which feel very player-centric and don't really seem to take the whole situation into account. And I'm saying that from someone who obviously can't speak from the player side. So it sometimes frustrates me a little bit. I do like him.
Daniel? It's a lose-lose either way you go. If you leave for free or if you leave now, it's a lose-lose.
It seems as if he knows maybe something a little bit more. It is lose-lose, but it's been made that way by the lack of communication. And it's been, obviously, he's speaking from a player's perspective here. You can still win from a free transfer. You just have to make it a win, like taking those wages off your books, having a player leave that maybe doesn't necessarily fit some of your managers' tactical ideas, all those kind of things. These are really important aspects to acknowledge as well. And I think very often on Sky, they want to paint just one element of the narrative and try and come away with a big conclusion rather than a realistic one. And that can get a bit frustrating.
Everyone that's involved in the football club should want him to stay.
This is, by the way, a fallacy. So not everyone involved in the football club should want Trent to stay. If you're negotiating with someone else, it's not always great to have this kind of, you've got to stay thing. It puts you on a very weak footing to negotiate with a big player and a player who's clearly liked by someone like Real Madrid, putting you in a weak negotiation position. But I also think you should have people who are skeptical of every position within the club as well and saying things like, is this our future right back? Is this our future captain? We do need to evaluate all these things. And I think there's a very reasonable argument to be put forward that Trent isn't currently showing the qualities of a player who would be future captain at Liverpool, at least at the moment. That's fair enough. I'm not saying he can't rediscover those things. I'm not saying he can't recover those things. I'm just saying in the current moment, there is this issue where he's not showing all of the qualities of captain, I'll put it that way. And I also think that there are other people who will say, well, tactically, does he fit what Slot wants to do? Great balls out the back is fantastic, but maybe that's not always what Slot wants to do. And I think that's a very reasonable evaluation. There are other things that a Slot right back might need to do that maybe Trent isn't fully suited to. And I think there is a bit of a misnomer here at the moment that Trent is, just because he's the best in the world or the best in that specialist position, therefore the best for Liverpool and the best fit. And I'm not necessarily sure that's true.
These moments when a player...
Which, by the way, also means that I'm not sure he's the best fit for Real Madrid, but I think Real Madrid give their manager players and then go make these guys fit. And I think very often players' egos are willing to bend for that. If Trent was truly captain material at Liverpool, he would make his ego bend to fit the goals of the club if he stays, which I think he'd be very likely to do if he does stay.
Running his contract down, and I've been in a situation when I was at Man City as a young player. When you're in these moments...
Very different situation for Daniel Sturridge. But Daniel Sturridge was an extremely promising young striker when he came through at City and then subsequently at other clubs as well. So, I think he can speak from some perspective here with some more informed perspective, should we say. I don't necessarily think it's always good to have players... First of all, Carragher and Neville never experienced a transfer. Roy Keane did. And I guess he experienced a painful exit from a club. Weirdly, we don't hear a lot from him in this discussion. But also then we do hear Daniel Sturridge. I guess all of these guys have got perspective, but I would also say they kind of apply it from what their own perspective was rather than taking themselves out of that situation. I'm aware we're all aware of, kind of guilty of doing that at some point. But very often our job is to take ourselves out of that perspective and try to see it from a different perspective and help other people see it from that perspective as well.
And you're thinking to yourself, okay, I want to stay at the football club. The club clearly known all this time that Trent Alexander-Arnold's contract was running down. We're now going to put it all on Trent and make out as if it's Trent's fault that Real Madrid have put a bid in when his contract has 6 months left. He's one of the best players in the world in his position, as is Mo Salah, as is Virgil van Dijk. Neither of the three of them should be in this predicament.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think... Weirdly, Daniel is kind of crossing a couple of wires here. So first of all, all three of the players are in great positions right now. They're all being paid fat sums of money anyway. They could be paying more if they want, to sign new contracts. Great. They're all sitting in powerful positions. They're all sitting in a club where potentially if they play well, they can go and win the league. They're all in a very good playing position at the moment. They're all playing very well. So they potentially could get great transfers somewhere else. I think all three of them have put themselves in this position as well as the club allowing them to do that. That's the club trusting that the transfer committee or set of people would do what was needed, should we say? So, all good, but they didn't. Klopp and everyone else didn't really do that. And I also think that there is an element here which we need to evaluate of the players running their own contracts down in order to put themselves in the most powerful position, which is a lot of what a lot of modern players do anyway. And I think it's naive to say that the club just allowed it to get to here. They were never going to make someone a massive offer, especially not Salah or Virgil van Dijk, any time ago. And none of those players were going to sign anything in the summer because guess what? They didn't know what the future of the club was and they wanted to see what someone like Arne Slot would do. It's a bad timeline and it's clearly mismanaged or like it's not a great situation from club level. But I also think with the crossing over of power and all the different people, these have got lost in that crossover and that is frustrating.
Can't say,
Presumably,
Trent,
Daniel, they've had opportunities to sign a contract at some stage.
Dave,
do think
we
he's
don't
making
know
a
that.
point
We don't know if contracts have been offered and contracts were rejected.
Saying we don't know that, I think from a journalistic perspective, isn't great. Very often I'd do my utmost to share notes within a company and to bring everyone onto the same hymn sheet. Very often it's difficult, obviously, to do that with pundits who are coming in and working off information that they have. Kind of frustrating that the overall analysis suffers because of that, though.
Obviously, Jurgen's contract and him coming out last season saying, hey guys, I'm leaving. That was a spanner in the works for everybody. And I think the club were at panic stations. So they're probably thinking, okay, our priority right now is to find the best manager to replace Jurgen Klopp. We'll put the contracts on the back burner. Maybe we can find...
I don't think that's... I think that's unrealistic. I'm not saying Daniel's not making a good point there. I do think that it did put the contracts into a status or like a stasis. But I also think the other side is true. There are enough staff at all the club to be able to evaluate these things and be able to keep two things going at once. Whether the players would have signed without knowing the future transfers or who's going to be manager or how that manager is going to be is another question. And I also think on top of that, the Klopp leaving thing was incredibly important. These three guys, Van Dijk, he obviously made captain of the club and brought him through and made him the player that he is today. Not that he wasn't great before. Salah, he certainly made the player that he is today, even though the underlying numbers always told us Salah had that potential. And Trent, he certainly made the player he is today because he kind of co-created this position with him. We're talking about Trent creating this position. Pep Lingers, Klopp, everyone else also created this position. Hendo, Salah, there are lots of people who've gone into making it that Trent could take these kinds of risks in a game and have these kind of performances. So let's not act as if it's just a one-man band that's gone here. It's not the way it works.
We'll sort the guys out later on. But for me, to leave these three players in a predicament like this,
I said that's him. I said that's him up there. The club obviously have let these contracts all run down simultaneously, all three together. Three of the best players in the club, probably the most valuable three players in the club. And the problem is with football clubs, because I know I own a football club. When you've signed a player or you've brought a player through the ranks, it hurts you sometimes when you feel like you've got to pay for the transfer fee again. Do you understand what I mean by that? So like Mo Salah now, the economics of Mo Salah is he wants a 3-year deal at 400 grand a week, which is 20 million a year, which is 60 million. But to replace, so if that's what he wants, he probably deserves that and should get it.
Okay, so I get Gary's logic here. I don't necessarily think that I agree. I mean, I do agree in the sense that I would love to see Trent get Trent, Salah and Virgil re-sign. But I think Salah in particular, you're not going to get a 3-year deal, or at least maybe you shouldn't get another 3-year deal at the age that you're at. You don't know where the drop-off is. Liverpool, of course, were able to monitor his body. So maybe that... Here's the thing. What I find interesting here is we always assume that the club is just working from the same information that we're working from. They're not. They're looking at the players' bodies on a day-to-day basis. They're tracking how their seasons go. They're probably making, a lot of, and I mean millions of points of data of evaluation of where their overall development is and whether they can get better value in the market or whether they can get better value from where they're at. Weirdly, we never seem to factor that into these conversations. And we never seem to factor that into contract negotiations, all these kind of things. The club will be using all of this data and all this information to track what's best, whether it is best to let them leave. Obviously, you never want to let anyone leave on a free. If someone did want to leave, it's always best to get a transfer fee from them. Why wouldn't you do that? But at the same time, The fascinating side of it is, like we can not sign someone else here and we could just keep you and not have to sign another player. What if they would sign another player for much, much cheaper and get it below that price and be able to carry on the legacy and be able to replace Salah, not like for like, but again, make up those in the aggregate. It's just theory, and I think it's well worth discussing.
To replace Mo Salah, you pay 60, 70 million for a fee and 10, 15 million years, so 120 million.
And there's not guaranteed that player will
yeah.
do what Salah's doing.
And for Trent, as being a young player who's come through the ranks at a club, you almost in some ways sometimes can get a little bit bullied, by the fact that, you got signed for us, you always, we brought you through. There's a bit of that as well in the club. I'm not saying Liverpool are doing that, but there is probably the other side to it. So all I'm saying is the reason that he's been bad out there today can be one or two reasons. Well, three reasons. One, he has had games like that before, and
Yeah, great point. He's had games like this before. I think he was really poor in a lot of other games. Obviously, as fans, we were just much more willing to make up for it in that moment, much more willing to back him because we felt like he was backing us.
Get done defensively. Secondly, he could just have a bad day. And thirdly, he could have just had all that noise in his head all week and distraction and just not been at it.
Yeah. Because you talk about him being a top player, and we know defensively he's not great, but the manager made the point, you made it there, about, he's been left 1v1 and he needs help around it. But at the highest level, the lads have done it. You will be left 1v1s. That's part of being a top defender.
I agree with Keane here. I think, obviously the manager was trying to make an overall evaluation of the game, and Gravenberch could have got back at times, and Konate was 2 training sessions in, though Trent lost all 5 of his duels, and that wasn't that every time you could say I'd expect a better percentage there than that.
There will be situations in games where you're pushing or you're pressing to get an equaliser, and you have to deal with 1v1. So that shouldn't be a big thing.
But the thing out there is he's left 1v1 with Dalot. There wasn't Ryan Giggs.
Dalot in the first minute of the game, who's been turning back on his right foot and passing it round the way all week, went straight for him. The only thing I would say today about Trent Alexander-Arnold is I was disappointed with his defending. I mean, he didn't defend well, but he's done that before. I thought his passing, his forward play was probably the worst I've seen it. Because if you think about that pass at the end into midfield that obviously United get the goal from, he doesn't normally make so many mistakes on the ball. He's normally a bigger threat with his crossing. So I thought he was disappointing on the ball.
But his contract situation, but I don't understand. There's a lot of negativity and local fans will be having a go at him. But if they don't agree a contract and he leaves, and the amount of games he's played for Liverpool, is it well over 300? He's won titles. And if Liverpool, why can't everyone show a little bit of class and say, listen, we can't agree a deal, but you're 26, 27. All the best to you.
I don't think anyone's not saying that. I think a lot of people are saying they would love to do the all the best to you thing. They'd love to do this whole, if you are going to leave, we're proud of you as a Scouser thing. It's hard to do when it's clear that he's trying to play both sides of the fence here. And obviously FSG put him in that position, but any club ownership would put you in that position. I don't think there are many club ownerships out there that just go contract on the table, blah, 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 because not everyone has that benefit. And we know that's not the system. But, Trent has also massively benefited from this system of Liverpool not signing anyone. They could have gone into the market and bought someone else who's a very solid right back. They've not needed to because they've developed this guy. So it goes both ways. And I also think locals are always going to be upset. And this willful misunderstanding of what it means to have a local lad in the team, I find unusual. It doesn't really give you any analysis. It's just kind of a stick used to beat Scousers, really.
Sure. Daniel, is that realistic?
No, why can't the club say, well, we can't agree a deal with you. You've given us great service. He's not jumped ship after playing for 2 seasons. Okay, the fact he's a local lad, but there's a business side to it as well.
You're right, but Liverpool, I mean, there's, say, Carragher and Steven Gerrard, who were Liverpool sort of they were in the city. You felt as though they were almost like they couldn't leave, almost like lads that you knew already. Then you have lads like Michael Owen, who was sort of slightly different in that they see this journey of going playing for Real Madrid and playing in different parts of the world. Beck's.
He makes a really good point. The only difference here is, Trent has laid out what he thought he wanted from the club, which is to become captain, which is to win things, blah blah blah, and then he's gone and sort of changed that in other interviews. So it becomes very confusing when there's not a clear pathway laid out. That's not to say that Trent isn't clear in his own mind or that he even owes other people an explanation. But when you lay those explanations out there, then they will be evaluated, and sometimes by people who aren't capable of good evaluation, and therefore you'll get misportrayed. Believe me, we've all had that done to us when we've been in the public eye at some point or another. And I've not even had a billionth of the amount of people evaluate me, although I've had a lot of people evaluate my character in the past. A lot of people accurately, a lot of people were just idiots.
Was at United from his age of 13. And he wouldn't be where he is today if he hadn't left and gone and played for Real Madrid or AC Milan or PSG. Some lads, see the part of their career. So Liverpool's part of their career, Manchester United's part of their career, and it's brilliant and they love it. But then they want to go and explore. They want to go and do this. I think personally, when I look at Trent, he looks like a lad that wants to go and explore Real Madrid. He wants to go and play in different parts of the world.
And exploring himself and the Far East.
But the argument is also that they're not getting any money from. But what about the service he's giving
exactly.
them? And he might have been on.
Yeah, but this is what Sky do very well here, and I mean very well in terms of, like, it's a sleight of hand. What they are, and Jamie tries to bring this conversation back to a realistic one. There are different parties that are interested, but what they do is conflate those interests. So when the Liverpool fans react, they act as if it's the club reacting in an emotional manner. The club aren't reacting in an emotional manner. When there is a business case made, they act as if the fans should make the business case, which really isn't the case there. Business-wise, you always want to recoup something when a player leaves the club. Obviously, what I find interesting and what we don't really acknowledge is Liverpool have a lot of financial ideas which went outside of what other people thought was not worthwhile, but like what was received knowledge before. So what people would have done, they went against that. And that very often I now think, well, why would they go against this? Okay, maybe they know something that we don't. Why do we always assume that the club don't know everything and why they're just acting like idiots? I don't get that. That makes no sense to me.
There's a local.
We had this discussion, I think, with Jamie Redknapp a couple of weeks ago at the Tottenham game.
Sounds great.
There's sometimes frustration from Liverpool support. He's going to leave for free. He came for free. I've got no problem with that. It's like selling Virgil van Dijk in the summer for 75 million. You're breaking even. And again, it's...
Sure. That's not always the preferable situation, though. Getting something for nothing and then it leaving for nothing, that's not preferable, though, is it? So again, I don't get the logic of that argument. It doesn't make any sense.
So when I'm talking about Trent, I'm disappointed with the Real Madrid stuff.
All of these guys, great fashion for their age, by the way. Really good fashion for their age. These are the kind of evaluation and moments you don't really get from anyone else, guys. Jamie looks good. I think Gary Neville's jacket is probably about 5 years too young for him. Sturridge is spot on. Keane, you've nailed the middle-aged dad look.
And that being the focus ahead of a big game, because all I think about, and the most important thing, is Liverpool.
Well, you wanted this to be another bit.
Madrid, you had a problem with the situation as well.
Yeah.
I'm saying...
Good point, Daniel.
I'm saying that...
So what's the problem?
The problem was that, how things are going and, we're hearing rumours and the contracts and the this and the that. And I'm saying...
Daniel, tell me what the problem was. That was just waffle. Tell me what was the...
Jamie really checks in very well here. I think he lays down a clear boundary in the conversation. Daniel just laid out a very fluffy idea here that Jamie, I don't know if he laid that out. But Daniel kind of tried to trap him into a straw man here. Can't straw man Jamie Carragher very often.
This is a simple question I have for you. Are you saying you are happy with Trent leaving for free, or are you saying you want money for him? Which one is it?
It doesn't have to be one or the other. What you can say is, why did it get to this situation where people are laying it out like it's that? That's the frustration. And I don't get why Daniel Sturridge and Jamie Carragher are getting so angry over this, because neither of them want this to be the debate. It doesn't make any sense to me.
You can't stay on the fence, Jamie, and say you either want him to stay and you want to sign a contract, or you want him to leave now and you want money. But you can't have it both ways.
You can have both. Why not?
Fans, I'm a fan of Liverpool too. I love Trent Alexander-Arnold.
When did I say I wanted him to be sold now for money? And when did I say I was unhappy? No, stop. When did I say I was unhappy with him going for free? I have never...
Why is this stressing Daniel Sturridge out so much? Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Why is he so stressed out? Doesn't make any sense. Why are you so stressed out? Look at that. Look at that. He's like this in the middle of a sky thing. It doesn't make any sense. This is just TV.
Ever said I had a problem with...
I think these guys know more than they're letting on. I think especially Daniel Sturridge knows more than he's letting on. Fair enough, but just don't BS me. Why is Sturridge so stressed about it? I think because he probably has contact with Trent or someone around that team and knows more. Yeah.
For free. I've constantly said and defended him to other Liverpool fans and on this show.
This is the duality that we're caught in as fans, and where we're put by the business of football. It's often uncomfortable.
Lad came for nothing, and if he leaves for nothing, there should be no criticism for that. Mm-hmm. In terms of selling him right now, I'm disappointed because I know how transfer works, how football works. He will have known Real Madrid are putting a bid in. Real Madrid can do what they want. My problem is Liverpool are going for a league title here.
Yeah.
It's January, and he will have known that, and that will kick.
So I think that is a big issue there. Why put the bid in? Why evaluate the bid then? None of that makes any sense to me, and I think Jamie makes a great point.
Forced ahead of a big game.
Isn't that it's the same thing? It's the same thing for Salah, though. No, you can't say one thing for Trent, a local lad who should be revered by the fans, like yourself. Like
I had to go with Salah.
No, I'm saying like yourself, like Steven Gerrard. Trent is one of you guys.
Yeah.
He's someone who's been at the club from the academy. He's come through to the age of 27 years of age.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's at a point now where the club have allowed his contract to get to this point. It wasn't.
They both allowed it. Let's not pretend it's one side or the other, and let's not pretend like Trent didn't sign a 4-year contract when he was offered a 6-year one. Come on.
Fault.
We know.
So the fact of the matter is, if Real Madrid decide, you know what, we're going to test the waters, they might have had a flirt up. We know our football. We know football. We know what's happening.
Okay, they would have had a flirt up before the time when they were allowed to, but we all know, okay.
Might have had a flirt up. That's not a problem.
My only problem with
Look how much Neville loves that. Look at him. He's like, Jamie's getting owned. He loves it. He loves it. And they also love the word flirt up. Look at him. He's trying to withhold something. He's just going, I bloody love it. And these two are having a go. And then these two just kind of sit around the side and watch Liverpool pick themselves apart. Because Manchester United here came away with what felt like a win, even though it was a draw.
in terms of if it leaves, it's not anger or I'm not happy with him. It's probably disappointment because when we've talked about Michael Owen going or Steve McManaman going, Liverpool weren't a top team.
No.
So you're thinking, okay, they're going to the biggest club in the world. The disappointment for me as a local player is that Trent is a local player. He's a Liverpool fan. Yeah. Liverpool are on the verge of
allegedly
maybe this season equaling Manchester United in league titles, maybe winning another European Cup. He could be the captain in 2 or 3 years and the guy who lifts these trophies. So Liverpool supporters will be disappointed, and that's where my disappointment comes from.
Exactly.
If you're a Liverpool
that's
fan,
reasonable.
That's like your chance to put the club. He will think differently. But if I was in his position, that would be my mentality. I can put Liverpool in a position where we go above United in league titles. I could lift the trophy.
So you're saying you want him to stay?
Neither Jamie nor Gary, I think, ever had the opportunity to leave the club to a team like Real Madrid, though. So very different.
You want him to sign a contract?
So Gary, could I just ask Daniel on this? Is there a price where it becomes attractive then, right now, in January?
No, what I'm saying is, if the club want the player to stay, they offer him the money that they feel his agents have been asking for. Clearly, they've...
Well, that's not negotiation, first of all. That's very much from a player's perspective there.
That value. Because if they have, he'd have signed a dotted line. The same goes for Mo. The same goes for Verge.
You don't sell him now.
They just meant to just give them a contract. I don't get the logic there. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, they'd sign a new contract if you offer them a really good contract. What are we saying, boys?
He won't sell him in.
No, don't understand. The one thing I would say is what you have said about the 3 players is quite regularly is that you see Trent Alexander-Arnold being different because he's a local lad and he won't be revered. So if Mo Salah leaves and Van Dijk leave, they'll still be legends. Whereas if Trent leaves, he won't be seen as legend because he's a local lad and he's almost left us. That's one thing you have said.
I think that's fair enough.
I think Trent has to deal with that. I know
Do you think that's fair, Gary?
Well, I know what he means by it, but to be honest with you, I think...
By the way, that's not...
But yeah, I think it's very difficult because Jamie's trying to evaluate another perspective there. That's not necessarily anyone's perspective. I think there are a lot of people, I'm in quite a few of these Liverpool groups. I think, generally we do feel a little bit let down by that as a... I guess as a position for Trent to take because we obviously want him to stay, but also... we feel hurt when players leave. And that's fair enough. You can explain it in your biography in 10 years. But in this time, don't expect it to be blame-free or kind of stress-free because it's stressful for the fans.
I'm just telling you how the Liverpool fan base...
That's what you have said. So,
and that is different. And I've been a local lad, and at times we do... I'm not always saying Liverpool supporters are right. I think sometimes some of the things are not harsh, but we are treated slightly different. Now, you're talking about Liverpool not matching what Trent wants.
I'm not saying that.
No, I'm not having a go at you, don't worry.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, though.
No, I'm not saying that. There's no banner in the cop saying give Trent his dough, but there's one for most.
There was for both of them, but yeah.
There'd never be one there for Trent, because there's almost this feeling as a local player, you should be happy to play for him. This is an honour. You're one of us.
So maybe, Daniel, Liverpool have matched what Trent and his advisors want in terms of a contract. That is a possibility, but maybe he just wants to leave in the summer and wants to try something else. And if he does, is that fine by you?
I think he's been an incredible player for Liverpool Football Club, and whatever Trent wants to do with his career is his decision. I think Liverpool have had ample opportunity to sign the player, and guess what? I am a fan of Liverpool. I love Liverpool. I would love Trent to stay and to be like a Stevie G and like yourselves, where you lift
what a way to go if he wants to leave the league.
Yeah, of course.
But it's the important thing that whatever happens right now, that it doesn't derail what is happening for Liverpool this season.
What could derail it if he defends like he did for the rest of the season?
Exactly.
Whatever happens at Liverpool, the fans,
I don't think he will.
The fans were angry with him today.
Okay.
But whatever the contract situation, they were angry with him because they're going, listen, you got to defend better than that.
So is that performance?
Footballing point.
Is that performance?
If you want to play for Real Madrid, if you're saying I'm one of the best players in the world and I should be valued as such, play that way.
Trent, almost a chance for Arne Slot to use to help refocus his mind ahead of the 4 or 5 months ahead.
He's got to get his performances right, but it's not the first time. I mean, Trent's been taken off in certain games anyway at the end of matches to be.
Trent's been taken off in a lot of games, not certain games, a lot of games this season, because there's questions over him being able to make it through a full 90 very consistently. And I think that worries Liverpool, and it's part of the reason why they would not offer him another contract to the level he wants.
No, but he's really bad.
He was taken off against City as well when I think Kwanzaa came on as well. He was taken off in other games this season. It's happened before. I'm not saying that he should have been taken off against City, but what I would say about Trent Alexander-Arnold is he has to have that choice. My view is that Real Madrid is a very appealing football club, and Liverpool's an amazing football club. So if he stays, he wins. But if he goes, I didn't want David Beckham to leave to go to Real Madrid when he'd been through the ranks since he was 13 at Manchester United all those years ago. But he wanted to take that journey and do different things and go to Real Madrid and sort of expand his life. I think Trent might have that in him that he thinks, look, I've achieved everything I can at the.
He's not David Beckham, but he's certainly an exceptional player. My worry is he'd go to Madrid, and a lot of people, I'll do another evaluation video, go to another evaluation video later, but a lot of people are basically saying go to Real Madrid, become a superstar. It doesn't always work out that way. I think Trent's got it in him that it could happen that way, but it doesn't always work out that way. And I think it's worth just acknowledging that. Sometimes the Madrid fans turn on you, though very often the PR machine and everything else makes you a hero, makes you a legend, but not the same legend as if you stayed and were a one club man.
I want to win the. There'll be no one more desperate to win the league than him this year, and Salah and Van Dijk. If they're going to go, they'll want to win the league. So if they win the league, wins 2 championships, 2 Premier League titles. He wins a Champions League trophy. He's done everything at Liverpool, so he can then go and play for Real Madrid.
Can I ask you guys? I want to ask you all a question here.
Does anyone want a coffee? Anyone? No. Okay.
Feel he's at the level now in his career where he should be revered in the same light as the Stephen.
I don't think
There's a reason that Steven Gerrard is revered. There's a reason that Jamie Carragher is revered, but not in the same way. Carragher, he always left it all out on the field. Gerrard always left it all out on the field and was exceptional. So it goes both ways. I think that's kind of the point there. There are times where you question both aspects with Trent, as exceptional as he's been, and that makes it difficult to put him on that same level, though he is still in that pantheon, because by proxy, he's a local who has that, kind of hoisted upon him, should we say.
I don't think he feels respected.
In terms of Liverpool,
do you think what he's achieved at the club since the
I don't think he is.
18 to 27, is he looked at in that same light?
No.
Listen,
That comes in time.
But you shouldn't Jamie, we're not talking about a 21-year-old. We're talking about a 27-year-old. International,
you guys didn't finish their career.
This, that, and the third.
I don't think he is, Carragher. I don't think.
But we're talking about Steven Gerrard, the greatest player ever to play for Liverpool here, and probably Kenny Dalglish, obviously, is the only player that kind of competes with him alongside Salah. It's not the same. Come on, don't apples and oranges.
Hang on, listen. Well, I know a lot more than you.
Okay.
Listen, there's murals all around. You come in and you see murals of all different players. He was the first one who had one.
He doesn't do well not to have a mural in Liverpool. I mean, everyone's got a mural.
Gary should. Gary.
But he's the scouser in our team. He is. He's Liverpool.
Gary's boots. I think Gary sometimes. I like Gary, but I want to just adjust his style a little.
Him to the hill, the absolute door. You're not saying
that. And I suppose
Right, let's have this right. Liverpool have defended. There were multiple times where on the kickoff, where multiple different times just in public, where we have defended this guy so much because he gets so much criticism from other fans. He shouldn't be playing right back. He shouldn't be in midfield. He shouldn't be all these kind of things. Liverpool fans have stood behind Trent for years and years and years. The only reason we can criticise him is because he's one of ours, and he's not one of yours. And, it took time with England. The England fans consistently kept saying, he's not good enough, blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've defended him. Don't act like that hasn't been the case, because there have been so many Liverpool fans who've stood by him very, very consistently.
You haven't got a clue what you're talking.
There's 2 things. One is adulation, to be fair, in Liverpool. He does get adulation, but not to the levels of, say, Robbie Fowler or Steven Gerrard or people like that. He does.
Robbie Fowler was, come on. Again, he's won the Premier League, and that's massive. But Fowler was in a completely different time when Scousers were really under attack. And he represents those Scouse lads in a very, there's a reason Fowler is Fowler. And there's the same reason why Gerrard is Gerrard. And it's because Gerrard finished his career at the club. And Fowler would have or could have if we hadn't transitioned between two periods where football changed and Fowler had to leave.
Right.
And he's a different character.
Oh my God, he's a hell of a player, by the way.
But his career.
And secondly,
But Charlie, is that the kind
Yeah,
of the character he is, though?
Maybe.
He's not a Robbie Fowler, you know that.
No, but maybe
Great
what's I'm
point,
saying to
yeah.
you, maybe
Nothing ready.
but maybe
He's a chappy type.
his performance levels, he's won more with Liverpool than any of those lads I've just mentioned.
That's
By
kind
the
of
way,
the point, isn't it, Gary? The fact that they haven't won things and are still Liverpool greats shows you what's important to the club. And that's the problem here, is people are sort of going, oh, well, it's got to be one or the other. It doesn't have to be one or the other. You can't say Liverpool is a very... every club is very detailed, but Liverpool themselves know great details about the city and the pain it's been through, but also the identity that is constructed. It's a very complex identity. Don't make out as if this is just Real Madrid here, or as if we are just another big juggernaut that doesn't have a very detailed history and a very sensitive and emotional set of fans that bring Anfield to life. It's so clear.
Right, okay.
Where's this nonsense?
Secondly, secondly, through probably people like us at times, probably people like, he can't even at times get in the England team.
Yeah, but that's not Liverpool's fault, is it? That's England's fault. That's Neville and Southgate and all those guys who evaluated him and said he's not right for the team. So that's not Liverpool's fault. Klopp backed him from day one.
He probably doesn't feel he gets the respect in this country that he should get.
Thomas
for his
Tuchel was here today, by
yeah,
the way.
but
Possibly so, by the way. And this is possibly partly what I'm talking about. Liverpool's PR machine needs to kick in if he does sign another contract, if they want to keep these players, and show we back our guys, we get them to the top of the game, we can compete with Real Madrid and everyone else in terms of Ballon d'Or. It's very minimal resource to put towards that for a very, very big payback for big players at the club.
He'll probably feel like, hang on a minute, if any other country in the world had me, Brazil, Portugal, I'd be the star player. I'd be like, never even thought of being dropped. He can't even get in the national teams. We are a bit...
Portugal had other great fullbacks. He's a great fullback, and he's one of Liverpool's, if not Liverpool's greatest full. You know, if we hadn't have had some other great fullbacks in there who've scored great goals and done those great things, but that's not the point there. Come on, like this is so. He's so much more valued than this, and evaluating him in this moment as if it's always been the approach to him is very unrealistic and not necessarily reflective of what's really happened. Very frustrating.
For that?
No, I'm just forget that.
You blame
I said there's two different situations. One is Liverpool.
By the way, I love Jamie's Scousness that comes out there. I've got a few of my dad's mates are very like this, and I love them because they just put people back in their place, but they do it with a little smile. Look at this bit. Look.
No, I'm just forget that.
You blame
The no-look joke. That's such a Scouse joke. It's such a Scouse way of doing it. And Daniel laughs because it to me, that kind of thing is hilarious. It's such a I'm the man thing. And there are so many Scousers who act that way. And I love it. It warms me when I see those kind of things.
Two different situations. One is Liverpool. Does he get the same love as Carragher, Gerrard, Fowler? No.
No, but he's not.
Does he? Sure, he gets a lot more than me.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Secondly, I don't think he gets the love in the country as much as probably he should do.
Does people like you?
Yeah.
I accepted the fact that I've been critical of his defensive performances. Roy's been critical today. We don't help sometimes.
By the way, saying that realistically criticising or critically evaluating a player's performances means that they don't get the love. That's not Gary's fault that he's had to make those criticisms. He's a football analyst who has to say what he sees. Now, he could frame it in a different way and he could find another way to talk about it and he could be a lot less critical and harsh. But very often, like in the game against Manchester United, those things have led to issues for Liverpool. So let's not sugarcoat it here. The reason Gary's had to evaluate it is because he's been put in a position where he has to evaluate what he sees out in the field. And that's fair enough to me. I think that's fair enough.
He come from, if he goes to Real Madrid or he played with Brazil, he's Portuguese, that these countries don't care about people defending.
No, they do.
Where's this come from?
They do, but my point is he probably just feels like he wants to maybe go and experience something else in his life.
Yes. And Gary, by the way, what would you do if Real Madrid came to your...
By the way, the good luck to him from Jamie Carragher, very realistic, and it's true. That's very reflective of what Liverpool fans feel. They understand in the moment when he leaves, it will be very painful and very weird, but ultimately, it's good luck to him, and I think that's fair enough.
And promise the world.
By the way, this whole conversation becomes irrelevant if he signs a new contract, but it's fun to discuss, isn't it? Very fun to pile on.
Anybody could come for me. I was never, ever leaving my club.
Exactly.
Ever. It's never going to happen.
By the way, that's a bit, I think that's another thing. This is why I wanted to talk about this video. I think it brings up so many different great points. A thing that goes massively overlooked here is part of the reason Gary would never leave is because he wouldn't get the same support and backing elsewhere for the he's not a mediocre right back. He was probably the greatest right back ever in the Premier League. You know, he was up there. I put it that way. I think he's a great, a prolific player for his longevity. That was why he's up there. He was not, you know, Trent, but he wasn't also a bad right back. He was a good right back. He was very consistent and much more maligned by other fans than very often Trent was. Trent gets a lot of evaluation and help in cementing his legacy. But the reason he wouldn't have left is because Manchester United fans loved him and backed him, and he very often got that feeling. He wouldn't have got that anywhere else, and the same will happen for Trent when he goes to Madrid. He's not one of the locals, so he won't get that same backing, and that doesn't always work out well every time.
That was my next question.
I was never leaving the club. I was never in the position to either, but I would never in a million years leave United.
That was my own...
But that doesn't mean I was right. It doesn't mean the lads that left were wrong.
So,
Exactly. Football is full of dualities like this, and that's why storytelling is so accurate and why I'm focusing on it in 2025.
Draw it to a conclusion.
No problem with him going. If he goes, I'd be like, you know, good luck to you. Free transfer, Real Madrid on your CV, biggest club in the world. I've got no problem with that. My only thing, and it's not anger or I'm angry with him, it's more just disappointment from like, because I think what I would have been in that position, I'd have loved to have been playing for the best team in the league or the best team. I never did that. And I just always thought in my head, as a local player, your job's to bring more.
There was a point where Liverpool were very good with Jamie Carragher. I'm not sure they were the best in... Clearly, they weren't the best in the league because they didn't win it, but there were moments where they were pushing for that.
He's back to this club, and when you finish, can you be above United in league titles? Can you have 8 European Cups? He can do that at his club. That's just a disappointment from me.
He says that, but he'll have that mural down 10 minutes after you leave. With his mates.
Absolutely. I mean, Gary's making this point. I think, you know, the mural comes straight down if he leaves then, but let's see.
I hope he stays, man. I really do. I really hope that Trent stays at the football club because I want him to go down as a legend. And if he doesn't stay, I want him to go down as a legend.
He's already done well.
I think many neutrals would want him to stay as well because we just love watching him play. He didn't have a great game today, but we love watching him.
But I also think, as Sky do their little outro here, I think it's worth saying he is already up there. But here's the real frustration. It's always the what if he had stayed thing. And that is very frustrating because football is full of what ifs and you don't want to be on the end of a lot of those what ifs.
Especially going forward.
I think he's got to go to that Madrid.
Yeah.
Go for it, man.
So if they come calling, you're going to answer is what you
But Roy, to be fair, it's interesting that you've said since you've retired, you obviously had interest from Juventus and Bayern Munich, and there's part of you wishes you'd gone for it.
For a player, I think, for that experience for him, and again, it's not as if he's played 50 games, he's played hundreds of games.
Yeah.
James ended up being the best team in the league. They might be the best team at this moment in time, but it's not as if they've won loads of titles. But he's got, and at Liverpool...
Klopp was 4 games away from winning, 3 titles, 3 Champions Leagues. So come on, give it a rest. There's a reason he goes down as a legend. It's partly because he took us so close to so many others as well. I know it's easy to have this fun banter conversation, but come on.
Drag their heels with contracts. It's called a bit of self-worth. And the club comes in, if you like Real Madrid, then I'd say to the lad, go for it. Go for it. It's a short career.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. There's the other guy I'd encourage you to watch, Liaz. Apart from that, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know if you want to see more of these valuations, and there will be more up on the channel. They will eventually go into a membership group, but in the meantime, I appreciate you watching. Patreon down there, Discord down there. Chat to you guys later. Much love. Bye.